Hi, Paul.
Hi, Diane. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Yourself?
Not bad.
Good.
What part of the world are you in? Remind me.
I am just across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans.
Far out.
What we call the North Shore.
North Shore Lake Pontchartrain.
Yes, it's like a string of pearls of villages and cities right in the north of the lake.
Far out. Do you drink your coffee with chicory?
I do not like chicory. I do not like dark roast coffee.
Uh-huh. That's the way it
Yeah,
goes.
that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Far out. You ready to get this thing rocking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's good to put a face to you.
Likewise. Likewise. Yeah, it's this has been a real delightful development to interview participants. So you signed up first. Good for you.
Really?
I believe so. Well, you're certainly first in the order, because
Oh, yeah, I'm
today's,
first in the order for this. Right,
yeah, I
right.
think you might have been one of the first. I forget. That's
Yeah,
not,
I think maybe I am. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So, um, the first question is, how many years have you been doing the fest?
This was my first time.
Excellent. How'd you hear about it?
Just somewhere on the internet, I probably through one of the services that tells you what's going on with poems. I don't recall.
Submittable.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably.
Excellent. Our submittable investment is paying off.
I
So,
regret that they stopped sending their newsletter.
did they do that?
Yeah, they stopped about a month ago. So now you have to do all the work yourself.
Oh, unfair.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to talk to somebody. Um, so you saw the call for the postcard fest, and what was the first thing well, obviously you thought it was a good idea, but can you
Yeah.
tell us what was going through your head when you saw it?
Well, actually, when I look back, I realized there was kind of a prompt. This year was also my first year to do the uh, Poetry Writing Month chapbook thing. I was supposed to have done it last year, but I traveled during the month, during the week that they do it. And when I arrived at my destination, I was just too stressed out and I forfeited my fee. Well, of course, this year we weren't traveling, I was at home. So I thought, well, I'll just do it. And writing a poem a day was really intense and I really liked it. And so that stoked my interest in anything that involved spontaneous writing.
Yeah. So how did the postcard fest augment or differ from or change your own poetry composition practice?
Oh, well, I'm afraid it probably didn't change it because I'm basically lazy, but it reminded me yet again, and this was twice in a row, that uh, when you're given a deadline and a restriction, and I do some formal poetry. I do a lot of formal poetry, so I already know what restriction means. It can really be helpful. So I just found it. I found the spontaneity of it really, really enjoyable.
Liberating?
Yeah, I liked it. Many, many years ago, I used to write a lot of fiction. I don't anymore. But many years ago, I was in an online group that on Saturday night, we would get one word or two words, and we had an hour to write a short story. And it was the same kind of thing. When you're under that kind of pressure, your brain makes the shift.
Yes, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Tell us about your postcard method.
I'm sorry, by what?
Tell us about your postcard method. You sit down, you've got the next person on your list, and what happens?
Whatever pops in my mind
Mhm,
was what happened.
mhm,
Just whatever popped in. I was totally spontaneous.
mhm. So, did you, of course, this was the year of the lockdown. So, were there experiences? Do you keep a journal do you write them down? Do you look in the newspaper? I mean, can you give us a sense of what might prompt you to write a particular poem?
Well, I was quite concerned with the lockdown, and some of my poems had to do with the lockdown. But I'm also a person who I live in a natural setting, So a lot of my writing period is about nature. So a lot of just things that I see outside, prompted.
Give us a for instance. You're in Louisiana, so a lot of poems about gators, I'm guessing.
Actually, zero. No, not at all. But I'm trying to remember what I did for the postcards.
Kind of flora and fauna.
I think there was something about hummingbird. Yeah, well, I looked out the window and saw hummingbirds, and that prompted one of them. Yeah.
Rufous hummingbirds?
We get rufus, but I don't get rufus in my yard. I get only the
Annas?
ruby throat. Yeah.
Ruby throat. Yeah.
Yeah, but other people in this area get lots of different ones. I just don't. But I would even look around in my house and see things. I looked up one day, I have a mantle with a shelf on top, and the stuff on top of the shelf prompted a poem. I went to the back of my house where the remains of my very, very dear sister cats are, and that prompted a poem. I mean, it's everywhere.
Your sister cats?
Yes. Yeah, their remains are in my back room.
How many cats?
There were 2.
Uh-huh.
And they were so extraordinarily symbiotic that they actually pretty much died together.
Is that right?
Yeah, they did everything together. So it was no surprise to us when they died together.
Uh-huh. You think we old folks have an advantage on young poets because we've lived so long and there's so much we've experienced and we can draw on that when we're writing, or is that a liability for us?
I don't think it's a liability at all, and I don't like to make a judgment, but if anything, it's an advantage.
Explain why you think that.
Because we have so much perspective and more experiences to write about.
Right. Yeah, I sometimes think about all the people coming out of MFA programs, and they've learned how to avoid cliches, they've learned methods, but they don't have really the raw material of the depth of experience to draw on and the wisdom of that, I think.
And maybe, possibly, yeah, they don't have the experience for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't like to judge because some people Emily Bronte was what, 17, 18 when she wrote Wuthering Heights. So, yeah.
And Keats didn't have a lot of life experience either. And
No, he didn't.
We seem to remember him. Tell us about the aspect of going to the mailbox and getting cards, and maybe if there's some that stand out, and how that affected what you wrote.
I don't think it affected what I wrote at all. I enjoyed getting the cards. They came in very slowly. I wound up with 25 cards. I do have something though that troubles me about some of the cards.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I figured you'd want to know. I understand very much the desire to get more on the page. But what that did is cause some poets to type the poem.
Oh, I see.
Obviously to get a longer poem.
Uh-huh.
But for me, it still takes away from the spontaneity. All the Pennybacker studies show us the importance of writing by hand. And I kind of wish everyone had just taken pen to card and let it happen.
I don't know that study. Can you elaborate on it?
James Pennybacker, I want to say, I think he was a psychiatrist, I'm not sure. But he spent most of his career studying the psychological benefits of writing. And, writing emotional journals, that kind of thing. And one of the things he discovered was that the farther away from the hand you get, the less authentic. And so he had people type their entries, he had them handwrite, and the handwritten ones led to faster and deeper healing. So when people are in those kind of programs, they're always told to write by hand, which just instinctively makes sense to me. But again, I totally understand somebody wanting to have something longer than the tiny space on a postcard. I'm sympathetic to that.
I
But
understand.
that, but still, there's the restriction again.
That's why I started using bigger cards, like about this size. um, and then 36 point font. What about making?
There's good poems in the mail.
Did you?
Yes.
Were you surprised?
No.
You had a feeling there were going to be some good poems coming?
Yes. I figured anybody who wanted to do this, was a poet.
Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be
Well, I
surprised.
got one or two that were, a little struggling, you could tell, but most
Yeah.
of mine were quite good.
No, I mean, I think it's a kind of a fest that is inviting and open. So I think people who maybe haven't written poetry for 30 years feel that it's okay to pick it up and to participate.
Yes, and it's a good way to launch your writing again. Yes.
And we've had that story a couple of times as well. In fact, just today, a request to write a blurb for someone who just started writing poetry in the last year or two, and the Postcard Fest was a huge boost to
nice.
that.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice feeling, and the feeling of community is what is attempted here. So, and it's an interesting balance between accepting people at whatever level they come in, but then also hoping that they will seek a deeper gesture than the typical beginner poem. Let's put it that way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
One thing that it certainly did for me is I am not really that experienced in writing very short poems. I've written some, but it's generally kind of not my thing. And it forced me to write very short poems, and I liked that.
Yeah, about sonnet length, or maybe just a little less, depending on the size of your handwriting and the
Yeah.
size of the card. Yeah. What about the cards you write on? Tell us, is it from a stash? Did you become sort of a postcard junkie and started seeing places and saying, "Oh, there's postcards here. I've got to get some"?
No, I had some made.
You did. So maybe
Yeah.
with a little note, putting your URL or something on the back.
No, just blank back.
And on the front?
Oh, I don't have one in front of me.
No, but what was the image that was on the
The
card?
image, okay, in the back of my house, I have a set of nesting owls, like a Russian doll thing.
Yeah.
And I had them all apart. Actually, I moved them to another room for a better background and photographed them, and the owls were mine.
I see.
A similar photo is the background of my author blog. I just like the owls.
So does my daughter. She loves owls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about bonus cards? Did you stop at 31 or did you?
No, I did 31.
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 31 is what we ask of people, and I'm glad you were able to do that.
I mean, I don't know to whom I would have sent more. Come to think of it, but
Right. Well, there's a vibrant Facebook page.
I don't do Facebook.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm trying to get off, and I one time was typing up the word social media, and a little bit of Spanish came in, and I typed up social mierda. So now I call it that, social mierda,
Yeah.
and I think that's what it is. But extricating myself, I find difficult.
Well, I do Twitter because I have a sports blog that I need to be connected to Twitter because of. But if it weren't for that, I wouldn't even do that.
Who dat? Who dat sports blog?
Oh, no, this is tennis. This is tennis. Yeah.
Tennis. Oh, okay.
Women's tennis, yeah.
All right, not the Saints.
No.
No, it was a good guess though.
Yep. I can't blame you for trying. Yeah.
Tell us 3 things you love about the fest.
I love going out to my mailbox and hoping there's a postcard in it. I loved writing the poems and not judging myself. And I just loved the idea, again, that I was forced to write short poems, which I have written several, but needed to write more.
Did you have some winners that you wrote that you felt were publication worthy or that have been published or that
Well,
you just
I kind of hit the jackpot with that. I went over all of them when everything was done to see if there were any I thought that were worth editing. And of the 31, I picked 8. I edited all of them, and I discovered that of those, 5 had the same theme. So I sent them to Origami Poems Project, and here's the microchat, Pandemic Times. And one of the poems was nominated for a pushcart.
there you go, just
So I
like
guess
that.
I did pretty well, yeah. And
Yeah.
the other 3 are still floating out there. I'm hoping to have them published.
Do you remember the editing and what it was about the poems in their first draft and then in their final draft that had to be changed?
Oh, gee, just tightening things up. Not any big changes, just tightening up the words a little bit. Maybe changing a punctuation, nothing major.
Little fine tuning.
Fine tuning, yes.
Yeah. Anything about the fest that you would change?
Only what I said that I wish people would not type.
Right. Yeah. You know, some people can't, they don't have the handwriting or they have a shaky handwriting.
Well,
And so,
I printed all of mine. I didn't handwrite them because it's hard to read people's handwriting.
yeah,
And that was
sometimes.
a problem a couple of times too, that some people did handwrite and it was a little hard to read. But
Yeah.
most of the ones I got were printed.
It's the next frontier for me is the calligraphy aspect of the fest.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It was fun.
some people, I thought this is where I thought you were going earlier. Some people feel they have to jam every square millimeter of the card with some kind of writing. I remember the first year it was, there's enough material for 3 poems, I think, on the one card, normal size card.
I've got a couple like that.
Yeah. Clutter. They're cluttered. Yeah. What advice would you have for someone considering on the fence about joining the fest?
I would say join and drop all judgment of yourself. You're going to have some that you go, that wasn't bad, and others that you're going to say, oh, I don't know what they're going to say when they see that, and it's all okay. I think that the non-judging part is really important.
But that's just in general for life, don't you think?
Well, of course, but when you're doing something like this, you're sending it to people who don't know you. You think maybe they're really good poets, and you just have to forget all that. Get your pen, write the card, stick it in the mail, and move on. That's my advice.
Can you share your award nominated poem?
I would be happy to.
Oh, that'd be great. Talking with Diane Elayne Dees in Louisiana.
All of the poems were about the pandemic. And this one is called The New Physics. In these pandemic times, my house is now a gym. My house is now a library, a coffee shop, a first aid station, a yoga studio. My house is now my body, with boundaries expanding and contracting like a forgotten figment of Einstein's imagination.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I can see why it was nominated.
I was thrilled, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that feeling of sitting down and writing that poem and you finish writing it and before you drop it in the mailbox, is there this feeling that maybe you were more of a witness to the writing of it or it was being written through you or anything like that?
Oh, I often feel that when I write poetry. I always think of Bob Dylan, who talked about his songs, and he said once, I don't write them, I bring them over. And I don't always feel that way, but sometimes I do feel that way, that they just kind of write themselves.
Do you sometimes have the feeling that you don't want to put it in the mailbox right away?
I didn't allow myself to have that feeling. I think it's important that you, like I said, you have to just do it and let it go.
Yeah.
That's the fun of the project.
Is the letting go.
Yeah, you did that. Tomorrow you get to do another one. Tomorrow's might be better. Tomorrow's will be different. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, a real delight to engage you in this way, and thank you for joining the fest. Are you signed up for next year?
No, but I'm going to.
Okay.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I
Well,
thank you for giving us the opportunity.
you're 15 next year.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wishing you all the best, and thanks for being part of the community, and stay out of trouble.
Well, okay. Thanks, Paul, very much.